Oh boy. Good evening, everyone. It is October 29th, 2019. The road trip is finally over, folks. The road trip is finally over. The Sharks lose 5-1 to the Boston Bruins. Welcome to Teal Town After Dark. This is your live and interactive Sharks postgame. So do us a favor, if you want to be a part of the show, chat with us and fellow Sharks fans in our YouTube chat on the page or the app. And of course, always follow us on the social, whether it's Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, SoundCloud, Reddit, all at Teal Town USA. And for more Sharks content, hit us up at tealtownusa.com. You get the triple broadcast threat tonight, folks, and I am Puck Guy 14. I am joined by Mr. Ian Reid.
Hello, hello.
And AJ Strong.
What up?
Not the Sharks. Sharks lose this one 5-1. So, welcome everyone. And do we even have any words, guys, before we break this one down? Okay, I guess not. All right. Let's talk about this game where the Sharks were finishing up a road trip in Boston, taking on the Bruins that are 8-1-2 against the Sharks. Well, they have their number one penalty kill going. At the same time, Boston has the number 2 power play. Something's going to give. And it would get tested 6:15 in. Barclay Goodrow goes into the box for a tripping call. That sets up a power play for Boston. And, well, they have some pasta. They're not on the low-carb diet. David Pastrnak gets his 12th of the season by Bergeron to get this game going 1-0. AJ, your thoughts of the opening goal?
Come back to me.
Okay. Ian, your thoughts about the first goal?
Wow. Okay, so this goal, I don't really fault Jones on as much. I think, it's a bad play by Dylan. It's a really pretty pass to Pasta to put the puck in the net. Like it was a nice play. But man, yeah, I was find something nice to say about the Sharks. And I don't have anything. Like I don't really hang this one on Jones specifically, but man, it was a sign of things to come because this team just looked atrocious.
Yeah.
Oh, it was horrible. Now, yeah, you can sit there and say, well, I'm not going to blame this on Jones and everything.
We haven't talked about the other goals yet.
Yeah, well, exactly. It was like 2 of 4. But, and then we'll even get the whole, blame Jones things. We'll get to that afterwards. But anyway, yeah. Go ahead.
All right. Goal. Moving onward at 7:49. Well, because, they thought there was a offsides to it. PDB challenges it. It was clearly onside. So they take another penalty.
What idiot in the video room said that was like, make that call, challenge that? Like, seriously.
At first glance, I could see it maybe close, but on second thought, I think it was a little too quick to fire off the challenge. Thankfully,
I was dying to know who made that call.
I mean, they have a guy for that, right? So I
mean,
obviously,
Dave Barr?
No.
I would assume so.
Oh gosh, I remember this guy's name when he called down for the offside challenge against Landeskog in Game 7 against Colorado. Somebody in the chat help us out with that one. I know it's out there. Moving onward at 8:53, Jones stops a 3-on-1 to keep it 1-0. Guys, I want to say Jones had some good looks tonight, but not the entire 60.
Well, here's the problem.
Yeah, it wasn't 8-0 or 12-0. So yeah, okay, he had a couple good looks, sure.
Yeah, like this is the problem, right? Like you look at the way this team is playing right now, and it's not. Yeah, you're right. You can't just hang this on Martin Jones, but like that second goal against. I mean, this is basic goaltending 101 fundamentals. Covering your angles properly. He was ridiculously off his angle for that first shot, and then he just never recovers. Like it's frustrating because yes, okay, can his defense be better? Yes, but like at some point Jones has to make a damn save this season.
completely concur. At 9.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Oh, sorry. I thought you were going to continue on there. 9:18.
Oh no, I was.
Oh, go ahead. Go continue.
No,
on.
Ian's absolutely right. It's you as much as we hear about it, it's this is the thing that gets me with this stupid vicious cycle is you hear somebody say Jones has to have somebody will say Jones needs to have that one. And when you say that, the contrarian goes, well, the defense can't give up that shot. And then it goes back to, yeah, but Jones has to bail out the defense every once in a while, just like the defense needs to bail out Jones like it's just this stupid, vicious cycle that gives me a friggin' headache.
Some comments in the chat right now will be John Edwards saying puck control seemed a bit rough out there. Lots of intended passes mishandled. And Dan Darrow is the video coach.
Dan Darrow, yes.
That's the guy that we were giving love to this past May.
Well, that's okay. Right now I have a pitchfork and one's for Dan Darrow.
Yeah. So, moving onward to 9:18, Grzelcyk gets a holding call. Sharks don't do anything on that power play. 16:25, Tomas Hertl takes a high sticking call. That sets up a Boston Bruins power play. And David Krejci, the veteran for the Bruins, it's his first of the season from Krug and Marchand at 17:51. And guys, I'm not going to lie. I was a little concerned about this game, especially at 2-0, and just didn't even think that this was getting any better. 17-51 into the game.
There was no way it was going to get any better. I mean,
no.
You just got your ass handed to you by the worst team in the league, and you think are going to get better by facing the hottest goalie and team in the league?
Yeah,
would they have one regulation loss? Get the hell out of here.
Well, yeah, and here's the problem. I mean, we can go down and we can break down every single goal, but really, what's the point? Like we've been putting in more effort than the Sharks did tonight.
I saw that coming. Yeah, no, I mean honestly, it's like look, the Sharks lost 5-1. It was everything. Let's forget all the stupid numbers and time on ice and this, that, and the other. The fact that Gambrell, I don't know if it lower body injury or something, but he was gone after part way through the second. It's just, and here's the one thing that I want to highlight because I actually wrote this down. Randy Hahn tonight on the broadcast said, you can't blame Jones tonight. So, which made me think of two things. Number one, when can you? Like,
Never.
When is it okay to blame Jones? And would you ever admit it? You know what I mean? Like, I am just, look, I'm sorry. Let me just get this out. I haven't been on here in a while. I am getting Pollyanna to death. I am I absolutely adore Brody. I think Curtis is super duper cool. I love those guys when they do their show and they're rolling. But dear God, man, can we knock off the Pollyanna, silver lining, glass half full, everything is awesome BS? Like, I'm just sick of it. Call it what it is. It's they get back from they get to the second intermission. You're down 5-1. And the first thing they say is, what a goal by Brent Burns. Are you kidding me? You're down 5-1. You can't, the defense, the goalies, nobody can stop anything. Like, have they played a game where they haven't let in more or less than 4 goals? Was there one game, I think? So it's just, and they're going to sit there and just this Pollyanna crap, man. God damn it, Remenda, do I miss you right now in this moment?
Well, that's the problem, right? Because we all know what happened to Drew Remenda.
Yeah, exactly. But that's what I think is so. It again, I go back to his perfect quote. How do you expect me to, have any credibility in my praise if I can't honestly critique them? And to hear these guys just go full-blown Pollyanna. And for those of you who are familiar with Marilyn Manson, I say we have the Sharks come out on Friday night to the Dope Show because that's where we're at.
Yeah, I mean, look, you know what? And I think it was second intermission when Bakes came on. Like, thank freaking God somebody on that broadcast could actually call it how it was. Like,
yeah, even Hedekin is like Pollyanna to me right now.
Which is
Baker's the only one even close.
I found Hedekin at least closer to the end of the game, like was a little more vocal. But like, if not for Jamie Baker tonight, like you would have thought you had watched a completely different game than the one you actually watched based on the commentary. And I understand that this is the way that home broadcasts are being done at this point in the league. You go around the league and you listen to other broadcasts, and generally, look, everyone's a homer at this point because no one wants to upset the apple cart.
No.
But thank you, Jamie Baker, for at least coming out and in that second intermission and actually saying what was actually happening.
And Hetty is usually more, has been tell it like it is, and I think I remember very well in the playoffs. He went off on this team, especially the 2 games in Vegas. So it's kind of a surprise to see that coming from him. But here's the thing, guys. It's a reality check. And nobody can hide the stench from this team right now. You finish 4-8-1 in the month of October. You have comments in our chat going crazy right now, like 4 paws up for hockey. There's no hiding the fact that this team is bad. No one can argue this point anymore.
But they can. And they host the pregame and the postgame show. They're completely arguing this.
JF and JF mentioning missing Drew Remenda in times like these. And
I've reached out to him. Hopefully, we'll be talking to him soon. I mean, who doesn't want to get his take on what's going on this month? But I think that's why I'm just so frustrated, is to sit there just to hear the Pollyanna crap. And all right, let's get to a few of these comments here, and then we need to move on to another area that I want to cover.
Gotcha. Blaming Jones last season was definitely valid when goaltending was actually costing us games, but goaltending isn't saving this team.
Well, the numbers are almost identical to last year.
That's it. Right. Exactly. Like this team, Aaron Dell and Martin Jones, before this game started, were 44th and 45th in the league in save percentage. Your goaltender isn't even in the top 31 team players in the league for save percentage. Tell me, how do you defend Jones at that point? Like, you can't. I'm sorry. Yes, the team in front of him is garbage, and yes, everyone to a man has to be better. Jones is one of the people that has to be better. Period.
Absolutely. Were you surprised, Ian, that after the last game, the Dell gets pulled? Were you surprised that they didn't pull Jones tonight and put Dell back in? Because I was.
A little bit. Like, I'm not going to lie. It was a little bit. But really, like, this is getting like, and I'm not a huge anti-Dell guy, but Aaron Dell has like slid. I know, and it's early, but how long is it early for, right? Like, how long are we going to sit here and say, well, it's early, well, it's early, well, it's early? I mean, Aaron Dell is sliding into Alex Stalock territory very quickly if he's not already there.
You're absolutely making a point that I made on the Pucknologist this week, where it was a case of, look, you sit there and go, well, it's early. Yeah. Okay, fine. If that's your argument, then you tell me, when is it no early? Like, it's the same thing with like Erik Karlsson. Erik Karlsson has been a turnover machine. And, it's, he's still he's dealing with, last year it was the groin thing. It's okay, he had surgery. Fine. What the hell is he doing on the ice? And then now it's, well, he's a new father and blah, blah. Okay, then fine. Let him go on paternity leave or something. But it's like, I'm just tired of every excuse, and my response is always, okay, fine. If that's your excuse, tell me when it's okay. Is it 10 games that he's been a new father, that then we can stop using that as the excuse? Like, just tell me which it is.
And the other thing that really drives me crazy too, though, is like this, that's just Brent Burns, but like, you know what I mean? Like the accountability, like it's so quick. People are so quick to be like, oh, well, Burns is being Burns. It's okay. He turned it over. Big deal. Like it not only drives me a little bit crazy, with the Erik Karlsson criticisms, but it also drives me equally crazy that Brent Burns continues to get a pass for the exact same stuff.
Yeah.
and that's the key thing is that he does have the big contract and we can't and he's got the most notoriety. Let's be honest here too. The Sharks had a heavy Canada presence on this road trip, so they hit up Montreal, Toronto, Ottawa, and they get reamed for it. I mean, I think we all saw the video from TSN 1050 in Toronto about how they went off on Erik Karlsson yesterday, excuse me. It's just, and I think we were a consensus in our group chat, guys, that I mean, there's nothing that they said that wasn't right or wrong,
it's hard because like I feel like
let me
it's
ask
hard,
you
right? Because you get your backup.
Let me ask you this:
Sure.
Would Burns catch the same amount of crap if he had Karlsson's contract?
I would hope so.
I would hope so, but at the same time, like I still stand by. I'm not. Don't take this as a defense of Erik Karlsson right now, because right now I don't want to defend anybody on this team. But I still feel that Erik Karlsson's always going to be the guy that's going to catch the flack fairly or unfairly because he was the last guy signed. If Burns was the last guy signed, then he's public enemy number one.
See, I disagree. For me, I think it's if EK65 signs 8 years, but he signs it for $8 million, like he signs the same amount as Burns, I don't think you see near the amount of stuff. I think that contract has magnified his mistakes. When you're the highest paid defenseman in the entire NHL, you're expected to, play like a goddamn superstar and not put up -4.
Well, I mean, he's playing about as well as Drew Doughty's playing these days, and they've pretty much got the same contract.
Oh, and we won't get into the Roman Josi deal that it's an expensive deal, but almost team friendly at this point. SG in the super chat, thank you, my dear. Agreed about bakes, never sugarcoating things. Yes.
Thank God. And now here's the other thing. We know that Šimik is doing a conditioning assignment with the Barracuda. Likely will play Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday with the Cuda. Mm-hmm. Maybe after that, obviously they're going to reassess and then see where he's at, and maybe we see him come back. It's like, is that going to be the difference? And if
41 NHL games, yes, absolutely.
Yeah, but even if Šimik comes back, so it's like, okay, fine, you put Šimik automatically back with Burns. Are you going to leave EK and Dillon together? Okay, fine. So what does that leave you? Vlasic and Ferraro and two lefties? Is that going to play for, because we know the way PDB leans. Mm-hmm. Or is it even a case of, look, if Šimik comes back, then, okay, you look at the guys that played defense tonight. If Šimik comes back, who are you replacing? Wouldn't you likely replace the guy who's getting 3 minutes in a game a couple days ago? You're going to replace Heat.
You would hope.
Yeah, but that's my whole thing. It's like, well, Prout plays a physical game. Okay, fine, but who are you going to put in? Or who are you sitting in order to put in Prout? You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, the problem is you're right. The ideal thing, Šimik right now at this point where this team is right now shoots the wrong side.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting to see what I personally think someone's going to get thrown to their offside, and I'm fine with that. Honestly, I'm not going to get to this point. We got to thing again.
Someone gets thrown to their offside, obviously, but I mean, all I know is you sit there and you go through, and it's like, how many goddamn defensemen does this team need? Carrick, Prout, Middleton, these guys are on IR. When everybody's healthy, what the hell do you do then? I think Ferraro has made the case that he can't be sent down.
Oh, if they send down Ferraro, I'm going to lose my mind. The only reason I would send down Ferraro at this point is to get him the hell away from this mess.
Yeah, exactly. But I don't think Prout can be sent down, right? Like, doesn't he have to go through waivers?
He'd have to go through waivers, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
That might not be a bad idea.
Yeah, and who's picking that shit up?
He's a guy.
What about Carrick? Does he also have to clear?
Carrick can clear.
I don't know if Carrick has to clear, but he's a guy too. Like, if someone takes Trevor Carrick on waivers, c'est la vie.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but that's what I'm saying is, like, you made these deals to get Carrick and Prout and Ferraro has made it that you don't need it.
Yeah.
So it's just
Phantom.
Yeah, it's.
Go ahead, Ian.
No, I'm good.
Phantom0044, the coaching staff need to make adjustments to their game because the teams have clearly figured out how they play as their passes are getting intercepted and they counter too fast for the Sharks. Does PDB need to change his style?
PDB needs to be gone. Period. Like how does like this team doesn't look good. When this team was down, like everyone points to last year where they went and they had their team only meeting and everything got better. That team had significantly better underlying numbers than this team does, that to the point where it was believable that they could turn things around. This team is garbage. It's a tire fire. There is nothing underlying that redeems this team in any way, shape, or form. Like, this is just a bad team. And this team obviously can't play the style that Peter DeBoer does. This team can't roll 4 lines. The talent isn't there.
Okay, so let's just say what it is. At this point, I think it's safe to say signing Erik Karlsson will go down as one of the biggest mistakes Wilson ever made.
It's certainly going down. Like I don't know if I would just pin that specific contract. I think it's the combination of long-term contracts that have been signed.
Well, that's okay. Yeah, you make a valid point, because then it's the case of, or is it one of the worst things that Wilson ever did was Vlasic a full no move?
That's possibly where I would start. I mean, look, I would start in a lot of places. I mean, there's a lot of things going on right now that aren't good. Like, I don't want to. I feel like it's like, look, Erik Karlsson needs to be better. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. But man, so does this whole team. Like, I understand that. Like, again, I feel like that contract, the last one being signed, the money. I get the frustration with it, but I mean, I would expect better play from some of the other players. Though, look, Timo Meier just signed that huge extension. That's going to make him $10 million on the last year. That's a $10 million qualifying offer. Has 4 points.
Yeah. No, they got to be better. And to quickly address a comment in the chat, maybe the Sharks rehired Daryl Sutter. No, Daryl Sutter is a coaching assistant down in Anaheim, so he's not available.
Yeah, I mean, it's not available. And let's be honest here, as Ian has said, PDB has to go. Who's out there?
It doesn't matter. I hate this question. This one is stupid because you know what? No, listen, sure. Hockey fans, oh, this coach needs to go. But man, the NHL hires nothing but retreads. And then also hockey fans, well, who are you going to bring in? It better be a damn good name, blah, blah, blah. Like, give me a break. Honestly, call Toronto and see if they'll let you interview Sheldon Keefe. I really don't care. Call around, look around. I don't care. Like, if you think that I need to have the answer to that question, like, I'm not Doug Wilson. I don't need to have the answer to that question for me to say that Peter DeBoer should be fired. I'm sorry. That's not how this works.
Okay. Let me address this now in the chat, too, because this goes to what I was saying earlier. JF Turner, responding to what I said about Erik Karlsson, that deal potentially being a mistake. JF Turner saying it's way too early for that declaration, which, of course, yes, but it gives me the response, again, the provoked response of, okay, then you tell me when it's okay for me to make that declaration.
Oh, well, sure. I mean, you're entitled to your opinion. Absolutely.
Yeah, but I'm saying it's like, well, is it okay for me to say that if it's 10 more games of this? Or does it need to be 40 games of this? Like, at what point do we say, hey, you know what, maybe this was not the greatest thing to do? I'm sorry, but here's the other thing, too, that I think we need to take into account. I don't know that we knew that Ferraro was going to step in this quickly, this fast. And on paper, Dylan, Burns, Karlsson, Schimmick, that top 4, that looks fantastic. Mm-hmm. And I think Ferraro stepping up the way he has, and that massive contract that Karlsson got, I think that, you can at least you might not agree with them, but you can at least understand the fact that there are going to be fans out there that go, man, that $92 million, 11.5 this year, that could have gone a long way to keeping Nyquist and maybe going and getting somebody else. I'm not saying to keep Pavelski or to keep Donskoy, but Nyquist was a very nice piece. Maybe you could have found something else, but That's you can at least understand fans taking that tact or seeing it from that viewpoint, especially when the team looks the way it does right now and can't score to save their lives 5-on-5.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to tell anyone how to fan. Period. Like, I will come on here and definitely give you like my take, and I think, like I said, I agree with you, AJ. I mean, like, if I mean, at the end of the day, look, I mean, obviously we're going to have our opinions and people can take them or leave them. And I get that everyone's frustrated right now, but I agree. Like the declaration of when is it okay? It's okay whenever you damn well feel it's okay, in my opinion.
And JF saying no one is playing well. Why EK65 for most of the problems? Well, of course, at least for most people, one of the reasons why you're blaming EK65 as well, and this is a point that Ian made earlier, is like last man in,
Yeah,
like
and I don't think that's entirely fair either. I think
I don't
very critical of other aspects of this team.
But I think it's also a case of too. And yes, I'm not here to get into a whole back and forth about plus minus. So don't at me. But when you're playing 26, 27 minutes a night and you're a -10, it's at least indicative of what's happening. And when you're the highest paid defenseman and you're in the basement of plus minus, all of those things are going to get magnified, rightly or wrongly. They're going to be magnified.
All right.
Man, see, look at that. These guys weren't ready for sober, AJ. What's up?
So quickly, I'm going to do this really quick, guys, because I think you guys are on a good roll. Bruins score, 3 goals late or like midway and late through the second period. Last time, they were outshot 34-12 in the second period. The last time they were outshot by more than 22 shots and were down by 4 goals after 2 periods was March 29th, 1993, when they were playing in New Jersey. 1993. AJ, care to tell what the record was when they finished in 1993?
I want to say something like 11,070,000.
Yeah, 11,71-2. When you're matching that, that's when you're pretty pathetic. And me, the third period was absolutely pathetic in my mind. I think just running around doing high stick, roughing, let's go after Chara, let's do that, or stupid penalties in the third period, and then we're starting fights.
I mean, the third period, at least both teams stopped playing hockey.
Yeah, you can't even really get into that. But to go back for a second, like we're talking about how Ferraro has been a surprise, and maybe maybe right or wrong about the EK65 signing. But do we also maybe we can agree that perhaps Doug Wilson and staff, do you think maybe they overrated Chmelevski or Shemelevsky, however you want to say it, Blichfeld, Chikovic, Bergman, the list goes on and on. You're taking, I mean, do you think that those guys were, I don't know, expected, like it because the way, I don't know about you guys, but at least here locally for me, it was almost kind of sold like, look, we're going to have these top 9, but that, we're going to have this piece over here. Well, obviously because the right wing is so decimated, but like we're going to have 3 of these guys and this is going to work because these guys are looking really good. And none of them work. Now, granted, Bergman has like 4 points in 3 games and that's great, but Sasha and Chikovic, not exactly setting the CUDA on fire right now. So maybe they overestimated.
They did. I mean, there's no maybe about that. I mean, look at the Sharks. Marleau was. I mean, if Marleau was in the plan, he would have been signed before the season started. So clearly, they expected players to step up. And and okay, fine. Look, I know some people are going to get on me and go like, well, some guys weren't given a fair chance. But really, look at, in my view, nobody stole those spots in camp. Like, it was like they played hot potato with that. Oh, I don't want it. Here, you take it. Like,
well, that was the whole thing, is that one game you're tanking would look like, oh, man, look at this cat. And then the next game it was Bergman. And the next game it was somebody else. And you go, oh, man, okay. But we always we always see that where there's glimpses, there's a flash, there's a spark,
Sure.
but it never ignites for 20 games. And let me respond to JF Turner on the chat. Couture is getting paid $8 million a year and has one goal. Where's the criticism for him? And he is the captain. Huh?
Read my article today.
Yeah.
Well, there's that. And the other thing is, you know what? Couture will get a pass from people, and he gets a pass from me because Couture is a guy that typically, when it matters most, is the guy who steps up biggest. He's got a history of doing that. Especially when it matters most, that cat steps up.
I mean, I think, but it's not like Couture has been given a pass here either. Like
he hasn't. And the fact too,
nobody should be given a pass right now.
Couture is, well, the other thing too is, you know what? You know how I think, you know why Couture would probably, you know what would trigger him to get a shit ton of criticism is if he was the highest paid forward in the league. That's not the case, but it is with EK.
Even still, I mean, like, this is where, like,
I'm just saying that's the reason why it gets magnified.
Sure, it gets magnified, but I don't think like no one's really like, and I don't look at. I mean, I don't think AJ.
What did the TSN guys say?
Give me a moment. Give me a moment. Give me a moment here. I don't think it's. Look at. I'm going to defend AJ here for a second because I don't think it's fair. Like, AJ shouldn't have to dress down everybody on the team to give his opinion on Erik Karlsson. Period. Like, and there's been plenty of criticism of the forwards on this show. Like, it's not like I don't know. I mean, look at you're entitled to have your opinion of the show, whatever your opinion is. But I really don't feel like as a group that we've just been completely biased towards Erik Karlsson. Like, we've definitely talked about Couture. We've talked about Tomas Hertl. We've talked about Timo Meier. Like, these things are getting talked about. I don't understand why. No, I'll stop.
Well, after Couture dressed down Meier and LeBanc, what happened? LeBanc stepped up, and we were sitting here going, where the hell is Meier? Like, when's he going to step up? And, you know, Chris, sarcastic guy that he is, I guess now is not when it matters most. Let me know when it matters. Yeah, okay, well, I mean, if I have to say it matters most, like playoffs matters more than regular season, we probably have a problem.
But at this point, they're not making the playoffs. Exactly. And the worst part is that they're number one. And they're the worst case scenario is their first round is going to Ottawa. I mean,
that was done by the trade. I mean, that was done in the initial trade too. I mean, that would be the same if they had kept or not kept.
Yeah. By the way, Ian's article is at tealtownusa.com. So after the show, please go check it out and give him the love for it.
I thought it was melodramatic. Maybe I'm melodramatic. No, I don't even know anymore.
And hit the subscribe button, will you?
Yes,
yeah.
Please.
Please. We appreciate the 94 people watching right now on this. AO 123012345. Couture is not the only one missing. Where the heck is Hertl?
Where's Hertl? Where's Meier? Where's well, I mean, Evander Kane, I think, is the one guy who's actually making his paycheck right now.
Right.
You know, look at the Marleau signing got a little kick, but really, I don't understand why Marleau has been a fixture on the first line still at this point.
No, it's pretty bad when like
bottom, like really, I can go through an entire list of the roster of this team and dress them down if you really want me to.
Yeah, no, Laurel pointing out LeBanc. Yeah, I think since he was called out, and even a little bit before that, I thought he was doing things well. And you also have to credit LeBanc a little bit too, is that he keeps getting moved. One week, you know, one game he's on the third line, next game he's on the first line, you know, he keeps getting shuffled around. There's one guy I'd really like to know: did Sorensen even make this goddamn road trip? Like, is he skating with the team right now?
He is.
Right now. He's
really
both flank.
Yeah.
Dude, like, that's the other thing is Sorensen. Oh my God, this was a guy that I remember a whole bunch of people talking about. Well, first off, it was like you were losing Pavelski, Donskoy, and Nyquist. That's 58 goals right out the window. Right. And when you had a 38 goal positive differential or 31, I'm sorry, that was a huge That's a huge loss. So where does that need to come from? Well, it needs to come from Sorensen has to step up. LeBanc has to step up. We both said, Sorensen and LeBanc getting past 20, maybe 25, not out of the realm of possibility. Kane and Meyer both broke 30. Maybe they both get to 35 this season. Like, you got to try to find the little pieces here and there. Well, where the hell's Sorensen been? And no one's getting on him either.
And on this road trip,
I think your best players. I mean, it goes back to the old mantra: your best players have to be your best players, right? I mean,
who would be your best player? Erik Karlsson.
Well, Erik Karlsson. But it's not just. Stop.
We got him to smile. Yes.
I came this close to breaking Ian. That was awesome.
Sorensen, he had a goal on the last home game against Buffalo, and then he had an assist against Buffalo. Other than that, nothing on this one. But Ian,
Thornton has to be better too. There, now I've mentioned Joe Thornton has to be better. Joe Thornton has no goals. Has to be better.
Tracy,
well,
go ahead.
Look, about to support it. Look, guys, they play. I mean, come on, like 9 of their next 11 are at home. Like 11 of 15 in November are at home. They don't leave the Pacific. They don't leave the Pacific time zone until the very last game of the month, and they leave it. And it's Arizona. Like, if that game had been played a month earlier, it would still be in the same time zone. It's all because Arizona's stupid. But like, this is the time. And what happens if let me see, Winnipeg, Vancouver, Chicago? Okay. Well, see, you can't even sit there and look at this, because you can sit there and go, well, Winnipeg has been in, Vancouver's been surprising, Chicago maybe not as bad as most people would play them out to be.
Right.
Okay, Minnesota, not very good. Nashville, though, tough. Edmonton playing way above their heads. You look at it, but either way, you can't sit there and look at that schedule and go, well, here's 2 games that they should win, because you just lost to the worst goddamn team in the NHL. So nothing is in the back pocket. So what do you think needs to happen for something to not happen, if you catch my drift? Like, do they need to minimum go 4-2 for somebody to not lose a job, for a trade to happen, something?
They just have to look competent, right? Like, at this point, like, I don't know if a couple wins should really make a difference. If, like, they won in Montreal, but if you look at the numbers for that game in Montreal, I mean, Carey Price just played like complete ass that game.
Well, because he was playing the Sharks, that's what he does.
Right, and I appreciate that. But if not for Carey Price being terrible that game, like, Montreal was the better team that game. Just Carey Price was pretty terrible. Like, and look at, if you want to go back and tell me that was the greatest game that the Sharks played, look at, I know I got in trouble because I ranted after a win, but like, if not for Carey Price's bad play, they go over on this road trip.
Yeah.
That's the problem to me. Like, for me, the problem is that this team is not, I don't care what you think about Peter DeBoer, but at this point, better coaches have been fired.
Oh, absolutely. Speaking of which, what happened to PDB?
He got ejected for jawing the refs, apparently.
And that's probably the second or third time he's done that in his tenure. And correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think anybody has done that before.
And Steve Rector in the chat, Dell stood on his head. Yeah, Dell had a really good game in Montreal, which made a huge. Dell was the difference in that game. So, to say that we never lavish any praise on the goalies, Dell played a hell of a game in Montreal. I thought he earned the start in Ottawa.
Yeah, 35 saves on 37 shots. It was probably the best. Somebody, I don't know if it was the point or what. There was some Twitter feed that pointed out, like, it's one of the best starts of the season in the NHL. When you look at the high danger chances, the shots that he faced, it was an amazing start. But it's that whole thing of, well, anybody can catch lightning in a bottle from time to time. Can you do it consistently? And
for the Sharks goaltending, the answer has been a resounding no. Not that they're getting any help in front of them, but again, it goes back. Like, I don't really care who you want to scapegoat or who has to wear the goat horns, because honestly, outside of a handful of players, and that handful of players is if you're missing some fingers.
Well,
that is how bad it is right now. Like there's been a few guys that have been a bright spot. Mario Ferraro has been an absolute bright spot for this team.
Yep.
Obviously they've been better than they were this game on special teams. I think I think something had to give with the penalty kill and with the amount of penalties this game. Plus you're playing Boston, and Boston happens to be a really good damn team still. So, I mean, eventually the penalty kill was going to show some cracks. But other than that, I mean, really, what is positive about this team right now?
Well,
You've got some good games out of Evander Kane. Okay, that's a positive. You've gotten some good games out of Barclay Goodrow. Awesome. Like, if Barclay Goodrow is your best player, and I've said this 100 times, you got problems.
Yeah.
Serious problem.
Mario Ferraro is playing far better than I think anybody would have predicted. But let's also point out something too. I think there was a small amount of people that were excited when they saw Archer's Urbe at the tank versus Buffalo, because they thought he might be coming back too.
Yeah.
No, nothing. F you guys.
Sorry, and I'm so annoyed at this team right now.
Yeah.
That was funny.
Now, you know what? I'm sorry. I'm like I am right now. I'm like, this is me, and this is like rage mode. I'm like, I'm trying to stay under because we're not supposed to do rage shows this year.
We got
right there.
Border. I mean, hey, Ian, you say that, but at 4-8-1, you have that point where all bets are off. You know,
look, I want to be coherent.
Calm.
I want to be constructive. I don't want to just start spouting
no.
nonsense.
I get that. I get that.
But how crappy does calm against the machine sound?
It's true. But I want people to you want people to come away from the show just to say, okay, yeah, these guys were angry, but they said things that I can, understand.
Well, yeah.
They don't have to agree with me, but they have to understand.
Yeah.
I just don't want to be like,
No. And like Randy Bobandy saying, Ian, you are totally valid, bud. And all your points have always been valid. I mean, come on.
Ian, you complete me.
Oh my God.
Dude, that warm embrace that Couture and Marchand had tonight. Wow.
It's so frustrating though. Like
it is. And final shots 41-17 in favor of Boston. Faceoffs were even at 50-50. Sharks were 1 for 3 on the power play. Bruins 2 for 8.
Yeah, I mean that's a problem, right? Discipline was definitely a problem. Although at the end of the game, I mean the thing fell off the rails completely.
Yeah,
it was what
before
that the game.
Yeah, even before that though, there was a discrepancy, and not to mention the fact that this is something that DeBoer mentioned like after a couple of games ago, where it's like and even Evander Kane mentioned it after a game where it's like it's hard to get into a rhythm when you're constantly on the kill or something, so you can't find a rhythm to the game and blah blah blah, and it's something we got to work on. It just seems like every time we hear that cliche of it's something we're going to work on or something we have to work on, it gets worse the next game.
Here's something too, just in the chat here, going about I really Hasselplatner's not getting involved at this point. Like, let's just full brakes on this. Hasselplatner trusts Doug Wilson to make the hockey decisions. Now, should he at this point? That is debatable. But Hasselplatner's not flying halfway around the world to do stuff. He's going to trust Doug Wilson to do his thing because Doug Wilson's his hockey guy. For better or worse, Doug Wilson is his hockey guy in the organization, period.
Huh.
So until this thing goes so far off the rails, look at Doug Wilson. Okay. Deep breath. Doug Wilson has made a lot of gambles, and a lot of them have not paid off. I can go, we can go down the list. You've kind of already done it this show. You put a lot of money into a lot of contracts that aren't as liquid as Doug Wilson would have you believe. I'm sorry, a 3-team no trade, a 3-team trade list is not flexibility.
Nope.
All right.
But to put it in context,
sure.
Doug Wilson is to Hasselplatner what my Sharky bobblehead is to me. If that makes sense. Doug Wilson is a blink in the eye of Hasso. He's got so many other things going on. The Sharks. This is a fun thing for him to look at.
Yeah.
It's now. Granted, does he cut like the fat checks and spend to the cap and do it?
Right.
Sure. And to a certain extent, you can make the argument that Wilson has made some mistakes. Now, this is something that I talked about a long time ago, that I think it was, I don't know, around the 13 season, give or take a year, that it was like half the team had some sort of no move or no trade. It was like he was giving it out like candy on Halloween. And now, granted, we're down that we have far fewer, but it's like he's exchanged trade or the clauses for term. Yeah.
Yep.
And either way, the flexibility, and that's what I think is so funny. It's like, well, we want to create an area where this is where people want to come and want to play. Well, then why do you have to bribe them with no move clauses?
Or for that matter, if they want to come and play, why can't we sign anybody that's a free agent, a bona fide free agent? It's always via trade, and we always have to trade because the players that are here aren't exactly developing well.
Well, here. Okay, let me get back to my point before we go down this rabbit hole. So, you can look at what Doug Wilson's done, and I think look, there's been a lot of gambles that didn't pay off. He overestimated his prospect pool. A lot, and that happens. A lot of us do it. Although he's the guy paid to actually make those calls. Fans, it's fine when fans do it, but at some point, like if I make a bunch of mistakes at work, like you can look at, I can make a bunch of in my job and have the absolute best intentions. Eventually, I'm going to lose my job. Yep. It doesn't matter how intent. Well, clearly on paper, this team looked really good, or obviously he intended this team to be a Stanley Cup final. Well, that's fantastic. That he intends the team to be a Stanley Cup champion. What is the team? The problem right now is, of course, is that it's the spotlight's not going to get Doug Wilson right now for whatever reason, and you can argue amongst yourself.
The reason is for playoffs 14 to 15 years.
And that's a fair point, and you can go and you can look at that and you can say, okay, you can argue amongst yourselves on Doug Wilson, but here's my point. Peter DeBoer at this point, though, like you have to do something. The Sharks can't fire the players. They can't just be, well, Couture, you've got 1 goal and 9 assists and you're fired. Like you don't fire the players. You can't move. You can't really do anything with this roster because it's not as liquid as Doug Wilson would make it appear. So now you're stuck in a place where the only option you really have at this point is fire the coach. The problem with firing the coach is, okay, you have, the question comes up, who replaces them? A lot of people say, well, you could put Bob Bugner there on an interim basis. Here's the problem. Once you fire the coach, if that doesn't work, if you're Doug Wilson, guess what? Now you've put yourself in the firing line.
Yep.
Interim coach Bob Bugner, is there anyone here that, raise your hand if you are inspired by anything Bob Bugner's done as a head coach in this league? Because I'm not.
No, he got close
totally
1 year.
With you. But
close
again,
isn't good enough for this team.
That's why I go back to the off season, and I think you could essentially look at a couple things. But one of them that you mentioned, one that I mentioned, were the prospects overvalued, overrated, whatever you want to call it? Yes. Was it a mistake to sign Erik Karlsson? That part is debatable.
Sure. I mean, I'm not here to tell you exactly, I'm not here to bend anyone to my will. Right?
Okay, hold on. I'll give you something. Here's one thing that will save PDB and save Doug Wilson, and I think this is hear me out. Back-to-back starts Friday and Saturday for Shortridge or Cornosh.
Oh, are we really going to go down the St. Louis rabbit hole? Please don't.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's because if you're not firing a coach, if you're not making a trade, and you have no money in your cap, what else is there to do? And with like you said, what are the numbers for Jones and Dell right now? 41st and 43rd?
Yeah, 44th and 45th, I think. Well, before tonight's game, I have no idea where they sit now.
Okay, but I'm just saying, like, that's it. Am I saying it's like the way to go? No, I'm not saying. I'm just saying it's an option that hasn't been explored yet. And when you've gone down, when you've literally tried every different combination of the lock when it comes to the lines, and none of that is working. I mean, literally, what's left? Put Burns back to forward. We're gonna put Burns at goalie.
I gotta. There, see, I caught myself. I didn't do a bad. I'm good.
But you get what I'm saying. It's just kind of like, what do you do at this point? If the guys in the room can't figure it out, you don't know what to do at this point. Now, I hope we're all laughing about this 2 months from now.
Oh,
like they
for
go
sure.
on some, like they use the month of November to figure it out. They got all these home games. I mean, look at this. They're at home for like 20 days straight, with the exception of going to Anaheim on a Thursday. They're probably, they're going to probably fly down that morning, fly back that night. So literally they're here for 19 of the next 20 days in the Bay Area. So like plenty of time to work on stuff, take advantage of that. But
you know who's
again,
been here through all the Sharks failures?
Let's reassess at Thanksgiving.
You know who's been here through? SJ Sharkey. SJ Sharkey needs to go.
Yeah, he's a common denominator right there.
Common denominator. He's got to go. Look, okay, I've seen Hitchcock's name come up. Hitchcock has not worked out his last. Look at his last two spots. He's been an absolute, like, again, if you're Doug Wilson, if you're firing your coach, you are trying to keep yourself out of the firing line next.
Hear me out. Head coach Drew Remenda.
Like, Hitchcock has been, he hasn't helped the last two teams he's been on that have looked for that Hitchcock turnaround spark. It hasn't been there his last two stops. Like, I don't know why anyone would, why Doug Wilson would go down that rabbit hole. I don't get it.
Guys, let me ask.
Good news though. There's a ticket flash sale tomorrow, so no fees.
Guys, well, you know what's funny? I'll do a quick story. My ticket rep called me during the second period of the game, no joke, and gave me 2 tickets to the game on Friday. 2 free tickets. I'm like, okay, interesting. But guys,
how they use that? Let me check my email.
guys, let me ask you this question. Let's say a 5-minute power play wasn't called for the Sharks. Are we having this conversation of these players and this coach back in April?
I have been of the opinion for the last couple of seasons that this team is broken from top to bottom. I just don't spew it on every show because it would get old and no one wants to hear it at some point. I would, if I was Hasselplattner, I would have cleaned house a while ago. But that's just my personal opinion, and I'm not going to elaborate further.
It's a solid point. God, that's wow. You just like went way deep. I go back to the reverse sweep, then missing the playoffs, then going to the final. So close, then getting absolutely embarrassed. It was 2 years later, right? The following season was Edmonton, then Vegas again. I'm kind of leaning that way that after getting bounced versus the embarrassment versus Vegas. Like, I understood getting bounced versus Edmonton, but
the Sharks were like the Sharks were as healthy. I mean, Joe Thornton was like the perfect analogy for that team because the whole team was basically done. Like, they were just banged up to hell in that Edmonton series. Right.
Exactly.
There was no winning that series.
Yeah, so that's why I kind of look at the Vegas series. That's the one that first Vegas series, and I'm kind of with you. And maybe it's also a case of you can fault Doug Wilson for, giving Thornton as long as he has. Maybe you should have said goodbye to Thornton 2 years ago, at the same time that you said goodbye to Marleau.
I mean, Thornton. The difference was Thornton. I mean, not that 1 year where he signed a $1 million contract, but aside from that, I mean, Thornton's come back at pretty he's been pretty team friendly for the most part in his
right.
career. Other than that $1 million year, like he's been pretty team friendly as far as salary goes. Which
Oh no, I get that, but it's right now I'm just saying that not getting him, maybe that forces you to look, have other options or think of other things.
oh
whatever,
sure, absolutely. I mean, there's been, I think, and we started to see it finally. I think this last offseason, there's been a Band-Aid that I feel like has needed to been pulled off this team a little bit.
Well, and
Yeah. Well, Chris asking in the
that's
chat,
a great question.
who's the guy that's better than Thornton than Thornton displacing him? Well, when are we talking? If we're talking now, it's like, what are you talking about? Thornton's playing third line.
Yeah,
last year
fine.
too.
I
And
think
that's fine, but maybe you find somebody else who's better suited for that, like Dylan Gambrell or something.
Yeah, I mean Thornton, at least, like, the thing with Thornton at least is at least like he has accepted a diminished role.
I'm down with that.
And I give Thornton a ton of credit. So I think Thornton has still been a serviceable. I feel like this season so far, and again, I'm just so angry at everything. Like I feel like I feel like there's definitely been a drop in Joe Thornton's play this season so far. But again, the whole team's a complete dumpster fire.
Well, and I go back to how I felt when they let go of, well, I guess essentially they didn't figure out a way to keep Dan Boyle, yet they didn't replace him. And what happened? They missed the playoff.
Sleepy Mofo saying, do we trust anyone with the CUDA is good enough to take a spot with the big club now? I don't think so.
I don't want to, because I haven't had a chance to watch any CUDA games yet. Like CUDA games are on the horizon.
Bergman is the one guy I'm kind of eyeballing right now.
Sure. I don't have a fair thing, but I mean, based on what we saw in training camp, no. Like, there's no one. The problem is with this team is, especially when you're talking about its bottom six, is you have a lot of guys. They're just guys. Radil's a guy. Bergman's a guy. There isn't like this huge chasm between a Bergman or a Radil, in my opinion. Like, it's not this huge chasm between these players. The Barracuda has a lot of guys right now. And they're interchangeable, and they're not going to make a lick of difference.
And this is why I keep going back to maybe you don't sign Carlson, because it frees you up to sign forwards, especially when you already have a Burns on the team.
I don't know. I mean, history is ultimately going to tell us.
Oh yeah.
What was it? But I still feel like I said, like I go back to, I don't. It's not one contract that's screwed this team. There's
not at
it's
all.
a multitude of them.
It's a bunch of errors compacted on one on top of the other.
Yep.
And finally, the errors are so compacted together that something has got to give, and we're seeing it now.
Look,
and you know what? I mean, I understand that people are like, oh, well, Doug Wilson has had this team in the playoffs forever, blah, blah, blah. But look you've got a lot of guys signed to a lot of money, a lot of long-term contracts. You've got guys like Marc-Edouard Vlasic, who terrifies me right now, that is under contract for however long he's under contract for. This is something that I said when we started signing these long-term contracts. My fear for this team was it was going to end up being Chicago without the Cups, and so far, looking pretty good on that prediction.
I would go and venture to say Vancouver, with all their no moves, combined with Ottawa, when they traded for Duchesne, looking really nervous about giving them a top lottery pick.
Well, you did that to get Erik Karlsson, and at the time, I look at again.
It was understandable.
You can hindsight is 2020 this thing. Till we're blue in the face. I didn't have a problem with the trade then. I'm not going to suddenly have a problem with it now. No one knew Erik Karlsson was going to blow his groin. You have to file that under shit happens, right?
Oh, of course.
Well, in Doug Wilson's history, it's like for the most part, when it comes to like big names, blockbusters, or whatever you want to call them, he's come out on top. Like, he's at the craps table. He's hit the point. He hit the point on Thornton. He hit the point on Boyle. He hit the point on Brent Burns. like those deals have worked out superbly. Did the Heatley thing work out for a brief time? But then you can look at things like, well, Martin Havlat, that didn't work out, but wasn't that like an off-season acquisition? That wasn't like a trade to get him?
Heatley?
Or no, we traded Heatley to get him, right?
Heatley to get Havlat.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. But either way, that whole thing was just a little quirky. But fact of the matter is, I just go back to, and again, this is not just me saying this, but I didn't think the Sharks were going to get Erik Karlsson to begin with. Then they got him, and I was like, wow, okay, let's see. And then there was the groin injury and what have you. And just the vibe that I got all season from him was like, this guy's kind of a prima donna. He's always talking about his forever home. It sounds like he really wants to be back in the East. I just can't see him signing here. And then he ends up signing here. Well, what was one of the key components? Sharks were the only ones that could give him that 8th year. Made him the highest paid guy. I do feel like this could be the one time where Doug Wilson crapped out.
Well, I think, I'm not, I don't know. I mean,
well, because look at it this way, dude. If Burns and Karlsson are both like leading defensemen in points by like 5 and 6 or 7 points, are we having any of this discussion? Probably not.
No.
Well, I mean, obviously, everything's in the garbage right now, so I think everything's kind of.
Yeah, but I'm saying, like, if Erik Karlsson was like the point leader on the team by like 8 points, you'd probably be saying, hey, Karlsson's getting it done. Why are these other schmoes? But it's like everybody on this team, top to bottom, it's just a shit show.
Right. Yeah, and it's again, it's not just Karlsson, it's everyone. It's Joe Thornton has to be better. Logan Couture has to be better. Timo Meier has to be better. Tomas Hertl has to be better. Kevin Labanc could probably be a little bit more consistent.
Who knew that Pavelski was the key to everything?
Pavelski's not the key to everything.
I know. It was a joke.
Oh my God. I'm like
you guys should by now. I'm sarcastic.
No, I know, but I mean, people are actually taking that seriously. Oh, if we had Pavelski, this wouldn't be a problem. Oh, okay, look what he's done in Dallas. Look what Dallas is doing right now. I mean, it's like, come on, gang. It's not like he's doing his magic over there. He'll be back in 2 years anyways, so you know how it works.
Here's the problem I have with like the Pavelski talk and the Couture talk. I don't know Logan Couture as a person. I don't sit in that dressing room, so I'm not going to sit here and tell you that Logan Couture is not a good leader, or that Joe Pavelski is the best leader of all time because there was some, highly edited, published whatever video of him getting angry in a locker room one game in Arizona. Like, I don't know. I think the one criticism that I probably don't like of Logan Couture is like, oh, well, he's not leading the team properly. Like, there's more to leading than scoring goals. But there's nothing that on the ice that I point to and say, okay, well, Logan Couture is not a good leader for this team. Like, I think I think criticizing Logan Couture's captaincy to this point is a little bit of hot takery in my opinion, at this point. Like, it doesn't really serve anything. It doesn't really, I don't know.
No, I like that line. There's more to leading than scoring goals. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Jeff Hodgers.
Right. No, but that's true though, right? Like, I don't know because I am not in that locker room, so I'm not going to sit here and tell you, that he's not leading good enough or, I think there's just, when it gets to that I think has been probably the most tedious narrative around this team right now.
Well, look, fact of the matter is the boys come back home tomorrow, evidently thinking that it was a good idea to stay the night in Boston. I don't know. Yeah, I guess a bowl of clam chowder is going to solve their problems. Fly back tomorrow. I'm assuming that they're going to be practicing on Thursday. God help them if they aren't. And Friday, you got back-to-back games yet again, Winnipeg and Vancouver. I think we can assume that Dell is going to start one of those games. At this point, my money would be on Dell starting the game on Friday versus Winnipeg, to be quite honest.
Right.
Because don't they usually start Jones versus Vancouver anyway? So,
yep.
And then you've got, it's the beginning of a 6-game homestand, and this is the time to make it happen, Captain. 6 straight, 8 of 9, then 9 of 11. And again, you're home through Thanksgiving. Let's reassess this at Thanksgiving. And after these next 10 games, if they're not at least playing 500, I think something has to give, and at this point we can only speculate. I mean, it literally could be anything. We could see Shim come back for the game against Chicago in 3 games, and all of a sudden, if the Sharks lose in overtime to Winnipeg and lose flat out to Vancouver or something, maybe Wilson hits the panic button and ships out Dylan for forward help or something.
Oh, wouldn't that be a mistake?
I'm just saying it's the tell me.
Sure. I'm not arguing with you. I'm just saying, like, for me, the fact that Dylan could be the odd man out on the left side is terrifying, and I don't know if I would
but I'm just saying, what other piece can he move?
Well, that's the problem, and I'm not disagreeing. I just I look
like
at,
if I could think of another piece that would be valuable,
sure. Like
that,
in my opinion,
it's somebody who's sorry, go ahead. If somebody wants to pay, wants to pay me and take Vlasic, to the hell yeah. But who, wants to take a 32-year-old defenseman who's on the books for another 6 years, who's clearly in decline? Statistically, you look at the numbers the last year and a half. I mean, yeah, he had that little spurt towards the end of last season, and he did play pretty damn well against Vegas. If you remember, the games that Vlasic played in versus Vegas are the only ones that the Sharks won. So you can look at that. But
I know, and then look at Marc-Edouard Vlasic's off to a slow start, and maybe I'm not being fair to Marc-Edouard Vlasic. I'm just looking at you're gonna have to, in order to do anything with this team going forward, whether if you to make changes, which at this point it looks like they need some goddamn changes. I mean, you have to look at pieces that you might be able to sell a little bit high on. I still I understand that Dylan's obviously logically the odd man out.
Yeah.
Ferraro has played him out of a spot.
For me, Dylan, he's logically the odd man out because of the position he plays, the contract that he has. He doesn't have any clauses built in. It's the final year of his deal.
Right.
Based on his age, it seems like, and that would be the one thing that would return the most value back to the Sharks.
It would. Absolutely. I mean, that is your stereotypical, even if you held on to him until, that's your stereotypical trade deadline deal, right? You get out from under, you sell the asset before you get nothing for him in free agency. And so, I mean, it makes the most sense. I think that's also saying that Shimmick's going to come back and be the Shimmick that we've built him up to be in our brains.
God, I hope he comes back and, well, hell, he might be the only one who knows how to play defense at this point.
It's just, I don't know. I mean,
honestly, it feels like there are 5 offensemen out there some days.
It's tough. Yeah, it's just tough. I don't know.
But the guy pulled the ripcord. He's out of here.
I don't blame him. Here, and that's the other thing too. You want to talk about you want to talk about Doug Wilson for a second. How the hell do you come back with the same 2 goalies as last year?
Yeah. And then, do they get anything for Bebo?
I don't remember.
They got some type of prospect.
They got a defenseman back.
Because that's what they needed, was another defensive prospect.
Yeah. Barracuda prospect. I mean, the former 2nd round pick, kind of it's a project at pick. It's a project at this point. I mean, at one time a pretty decently touted prospect, but at this point it's a project.
I don't know. At this point, I'm ready to go the next game with Shortridge and Sawchenko or something.
Is it time to kick that? Do you think another 40-year-old's going to solve this team's problem? Thomas Vanek, come on. The Sharks blew that already. You can't bring in another 40-year-old. You went out, you looked at the free agent market, and you saw guys like Thomas Vanek, Jason Pominville, Patrick Marleau. You picked Marleau because that was the devil you've stuck with that. The Sharks don't have room to pick up another guy.
I think we can all agree on one thing. The disaster that led to all of this, who we can actually really blame? this whole shit show on right now,
Mm-hmm.
John Tavares.
Yeah.
If he signs here, we don't have any of these problems.
Yeah. I mean, man, I don't know. Maybe you do, because
You
that
do,
would have been
because
like a
then
$50
if he
million
starts
deal, and
yeah.
and you
What
still
now?
have to move people. Well, because that would have been like I think they offered him like $14 million a season.
Yeah, and I'm fine.
And
So we don't have Erik Karlsson, we don't have Joe Thornton, we don't have Marlowe, but we have John Tavares, and we've got Tavares, Couture, and Hurdle. Those are your three down the middle. That's not bad, boys.
That's not terrible, but if
but he had to wear frickin' ass Leafs pajamas. He had to wear them. Damn it.
Yeah. If we just,
if
we just could have got him.
That being said, I can't wait for Ovi to break out his picture of him wearing a Sharks jersey in a few years' time.
Yeah.
Back to you.
Well, and then I was just going to say, and then when it comes to Tavares, I forget the account. It seems like once or twice a month they tweet out the same goddamn photo, or they retweet a photo that they like. One time they tweeted out a photo of Tavares where like a puck was coming to the bench. Everybody else was diving, but Tavares is just staring straight off into the distance, and they, beamed it or something like that. And because it like went popular, they just like every 2 weeks they just retweet their own tweet, and they've been doing it now for like a year and a half. So every time they do it, it's like any credibility they had just keeps going lower and lower, lower, lower. Sorry, I just got a kick out of that. Let's wrap it up, boys. This is, it all comes down to this Friday. Hey, we got 2 days off from this shit show, but I should remind you, if you have some time tomorrow around lunch, depending on where you are, 11 a.m. Pacific, the Barracuda are facing off against the Bakersfield Condors. Bergman has had goals in in the last two games. So again, keep an eye on Bergman. We'll see what happens there. Cornish looked fantastic the last game, which was a victory over the Eagles in Colorado. The night before, not so good. But the second game, Colorado got a beat down from the CUDA on that second game. So, hey now, 11 o'clock start tomorrow. Keep an eye on that. And then they're back on Friday at 7. Or no, that can't be right. Oh, no. They're back on Thursday. My bad.
It's all wing spectacular. Let me get my little thing.
Ooh, Barracuda.
Whatever. 11 o'clock. Well, it's good. You know what it is? It's because tomorrow. I got you. Okay, so the thing that was confusing me is that the CUDA and the Sharks play, but they both play on Friday night. That's what was throwing me off. So, yep, classroom day tomorrow for the CUDA, and they added another one, I believe, against the Iowa. What is that? The Wild.
The Wild.
Yeah. So they added that. Well, I think that was sometime in March. So it's either the 2nd or the 4th. So look it up. Go follow them. But that's it, kids.
Have the goddamn common courtesy to give him a reach around.
Or Saturday, that's it. I'm out. I'm buying a ticket for the Detroit game, picking up my Shark Freak jersey, and I'm out. I'm punching out until I don't know, till somebody leaves.
And with that, let's take a look at the wraparound and see how everybody else is doing.
Oh Christ!
Everyone is doing better than the Sharks. The end.
We're doing this.
Final thoughts on where the people can find you, Mr. AJ Strong.
No, go ahead. Let's talk about all the teams that are doing better than the Sharks.
Ducks just scored to make
Let me guess, Ottawa won tonight too, right?
Hello, darkness, my old friend.
Ducks lead 3-2 over the Winnipeg Jets.
Of course they do.
Capitals beat the Leafs in overtime 4-3. Penguins destroy the Flyers 7-1. Hurricanes beat the Flames 2-1. Rangers 4-1 over the Lightning. Red Wings 3-1 over the Oilers. They now match the Sharks record.
That's a little shocking for the Oilers.
The Predators shut out the Blackhawks 3-0. The Hawks are 3-6-2.
Did the Kings play?
And the Stars beat the Wild 6-3. They are now 5-8-1. Joe Pavelski with a goal. So there's our
This is the
savior.
problem.
This is the problem. Get Pavs back as soon as possible. I mean, I'm
Well,
sure
no,
he'll be
based
great
on
in
the
6
game-
freaking nice years.
No, based on the game, I think we need to get Radulov.
Sure, why not? Hat trick
Hat-trick,
on the
baby.
night.
Yeah, whatever.
All right, AJ, your final thoughts on where the people can find you.
You can find me in the fetal position after every single Sharks game. I can go by the handle AJ_strong on Twitter and on Instagram. And new puck knowledge just dropped yesterday.
Definitely check that one out for sure. Ian has a great new post on tealtownusa.com. Ian, your final thoughts on where people can find you.
I hate everything. You can find me at Ian Blogs Hockey on the Twitter machine, and you can tell me things, and I'll tell you I hate those things too. Other than that, though, yeah, please check out my article. I haven't written anything in quite some time, so any constructive feedback that you have for my article, would love to hear it. Other than that, though, you can find me here, wishing I was drinking heavily. Good night.
And if you missed anything or you want to watch this again, check this out at tealtownusa.com or your favorite podcatcher, whether it's Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn Radio, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, Spotify, you name it, you have it. We'll be back with you following Friday night's game between the Sharks and the Jets, the West Side Story game. That'll be at 7:30, along with a back-to-back with the Sharks taking on the Vancouver Canucks at 7 p.m. on Saturday. So that'll do it for us. And we will be back with you then. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Make sure you follow us on the social media. Till then, keep it real, keep it teal, keep it real teal. Have a good night, everyone.